I want to fast forward a little bit, or a lot, to the Me Too movement, which is another moment where the organization really sort of ran into cultural forces that it didn't seem quite ready for. Can you walk us through that moment and what happened to the organization through that time?
In 2017, the Huffington Post published some secret emails that had been passed between the then chairman of the organization, the then executive director of the organization, and several of his board members. And these were emails in which they were essentially trash talking former Miss Americas, in some cases, body shaming, uh, some vulgar language about them. It was very it was tacky. And when this came out, it created a huge backlash, not just among the public, but very much among the former Miss Americas. Uh, it this was an organization that always put its winner on a pedestal. The way they would talk about their Miss America as their ideal, and have these incredibly high expectations. So then to hear that the leaders of this organization were talking about them in such a crass manner, the blowback was instantaneous, and no apologies could turn this around. Uh, there was a situation where the Miss Americas led the petition drive to have that director Sam Haskell step down, and many of the board members. It created just a tidal wave within the organization, which led to Gretchen Carlson, the former Fox News anchor, and Miss America 1989 stepping forward to become the chair of the organization.
And that was a key moment because here was a sort of pretty famous former Miss America who was coming in with the call to modernize the organization. One of the most notable things that she did was immediately get rid of the swimsuit competition, which when you think about it I mean, I remember my history with watching Miss America. There was the moment where they went to two pieces. I mean, there was a lot of focus on this particular competition. And what Gretchen Carlson did is said, this has no place anymore. These are
Yeah.
talented women with a future. How was she received? How did the public greet that change?
The public, by and large, certainly the media, was very approving. I mean, this wasn't a new idea. This is something that the Miss America organization and community had been debating for almost 50 years. Ever since the rise of the women's movement, there had been this talk of, what are we doing? Is this okay? Lots of debate and rationale. At one point in the early 70s, the director of the organization said, "Oh, I think the swimsuit competition will be gone in 3 years." They recognized that times were changing, but they kept it. When Gretchen Carlson made this decision, which I will say it was approved by her board of directors and initially approved by state directors, it was applauded, and it also kind of put Miss America back on the radar. There was a front page story in the New York Times about this. There hadn't been front page coverage of Miss America in some time. It was a very aggressive rebranding of the organization. But there is some backlash within the community of people that still cared a lot about the pageant. And you can't understate the importance of this group of people. I mean, for one, the people who had stayed with the pageant all these years, during 50 years of debate, these were people who, by and large, were comfortable with the swimsuit competition. There was also a younger generation of women who had come up in the 90s and 2000s who were very comfortable with it. They found it empowering. This had been the thing that motivated them to get fit. They were offended by the idea, some of them, that this swimsuit competition was demeaning. So there was a backlash within the organization that perhaps 30 years ago they would have had an easier time working out, but it was a much smaller community, and it was a much more fraught and fragile time. And I would say that this community, this organization, really hasn't survived it, hasn't been able to navigate its way through this fight.